I've had the privilege of using some of the most expensive gear on the market. But last year I made a shift. I logged a lot of miles in some of the cheapest gear I could find in order to find quality gear at budget prices. I found that most backpackers and outdoor enthusiasts are overwhelmed by the staggering options, the staggering prices, and the fear that they're going to throw away money on something that doesn't actually work for them. I get it. It's a lot. So in 2024, I backpacked hundreds of miles across dozens of backpacking trips all over the US and even South America. I used 9 different backpacks at all the price points, from a $78 Amazon backpack to a $400 top-of-the-line ultralighter's dream. I'm going to break down all 9 backpacks that I used in 2024 to help you find what's best for you. Okay, this is going to be a fun video, and I'm going to go in ascending order from cheapest to most expensive. So starting with this $78 Nevo Rhino that I picked up on Amazon. This is a 65-liter backpack and cost 78 bucks. That is pretty dang cheap. This was the cheapest pack that I used all year. I used it rigorously. Like, all of this gear I actually used on real trips. This one I took on a stretch of both the Arizona Trail and the Colorado Trail. The standout feature of this backpack is this back panel. There is a ton of airflow in here, and this was one of the most airy backpacks I used all year. It's got a lot of space for ventilation back here, almost too much. The only thing I thought was weird was this really angular design here, which I thought could mellow out a little bit, and this would be a better backpack. Now, this is a cheap backpack, and where you're going to notice that is in buckles and straps and just the quality of the fabric and the materials. This is your basic nylon backpack. Some things that I really like about this backpack are the multiple access point, the ability to extend the backpack out if you want to get some extra storage in here. You've got a stretch mesh pocket here in the back, which I always find very useful. You've got a nice storage area here on the bottom for a sleeping bag, and you can even get into the main compartment through here, although it is separated by a zipper. You've got generous sized pockets for water bottles on the side. This is a serviceably good backpack. Now, it's not for everybody, and if you're intending to become a pretty hardcore user, this isn't what I would recommend. I think that what's probably going to happen is some of these buckles and pieces of plastic are probably going to break. But if you need a backpack that's going to be something that is actually fairly comfortable, that can carry about 32 pounds or less, I think that this can actually work for you. This isn't by any means my favorite pack of even the cheapest stuff, but I do think that it actually works. Let's kick it up a notch to the next tier. This is the Teton Sports Hiker 3700, which is a fancy way to say that's a 60-liter backpack, and this cost 80 bucks. Also, bottom of the market for about as cheap as you can go. But Teton Sports has been making decently good gear at low-end prices for a while. Check out their sleeping bags. They've got a lot of stuff. And this one ended up being a big surprise for me. So the more I used it, the more I liked it. I thought that this one was probably the best bang for the buck for under $100. You have a couple of really small pockets for managing things like maybe sunscreen or toiletries, like toilet paper, things like that, where you want to keep it separate from the main compartment. You've got a good access point on the bottom for a sleeping bag. But here's where I thought that it actually was surprisingly good at $80. This back panel, while not the most breathable, was actually way more comfortable than the Nevo Rhino. And the other big thing about this is that it has a adjustable torso. I figured that most of these cheap packs, you wouldn't be able to lengthen or elongate or shorten the torso length of this backpack. And that's a big deal because that means you can truly dial it in to fit your body. And if you have a backpack that really fits your body, it will go a long way to being comfortable, even if it's not the world's greatest backpack. Now, this one stands out to me as being a little bit more rugged and durable. It's a little bit of a heavier backpack, but it's honestly, like, I think that this one has a much higher likelihood of having a long life than that Nevo Rhino. Now, it still has your pretty basic kind of cheap fabric, the nylon that isn't very high quality fabric or material. and it's not going to be waterproof, and it may have abrasion and wear over time. I'm guessing that the zippers and buckles are still only okay. If you are the type of backpacker who's probably only going to go on a couple of trips, maybe ever, then this is a stellar option. You'll be able to keep up with all your buddies who go. You won't be uncomfortable, and it's a good bang for your buck for the price. You can add on extra gear. You've got pockets on the side. You can strap things to the side. It's got reasonably comfortable shoulder pads and shoulder straps here. So I'm pretty impressed, especially at this $80 price point. My wife, Christy, also used this on a backpacking trip, and this, surprisingly, was one of her favorite backpacks of the whole year. We were able to dial this in, and it fit her body really, really well. So that was a delightful surprise. Side note, it doesn't come with this cool Peruvian bling. You got to get your own. I also found this NatureHike pack for $120 on Amazon. And this one was another delightful surprise to me. I was really thinking that this was going to be a terrible backpack, but I used it and I actually really enjoyed it. And I think that it's got some pretty strong merits. It's got that roll top style. It just has the look and feel of a bit of an ultralighters backpack, while being definitely not at ultralight prices. At $120, I actually think that this is a surprisingly good budget backpack. I did say it was a 65 liter backpack. Oops, I meant it's 60 liters. You can get some extra storage here through this mesh pocket to add that extra kind of 5 liters or so, but the internal storage is 60 liters. Some things that I like about this, I like that it's the roll top style storage. I actually also really like these side straps. Now, this is something new. I didn't really see this on other backpacks, but you've got this lightweight compression strap, which is basically just a string that you can zip down and compress if you really want to tighten everything up, or if you're attaching things on the side of your backpack. But you can just click this buckle to open it and close it, which I find really, really handy. It's a small detail, but I actually think that that is such a nice little thoughtful detail when I'm often fishing things in and out, especially for me with tripods and things like that I stack on the side. I don't like having to like loosen this up, push stuff down, and then like cinch it back up. I just want to be able to go around it and be done. The other thing that I thought stood out about this backpack is this back panel. Now, sometimes ultralight backpacks have just about nothing going on this back panel, and it's in an effort to save weight. But the downside is that they can be less comfortable because of that. And you actually have some structure, some foam padding, some airflow built in through this whole setup. And the other thing is you have a pretty robust hip belt that comes in. Now, if you are truly an ultralighter, I think that there are some better backpacks out there. But if you're kind of in this like quasi, I don't want to spend a lot of money, I want a lightweight backpack, I want to go on a handful of trips and keep up with my lighter hiking buddies, well, this is actually, I think, a really solid choice for you. Because the next closest that you can get for what I think is a quality option for ultralight gear is in the $200 range. So at about half, you can get, I think, actually a pretty good backpack that kind of imitates a lot of what other ultralight packs are out there doing. Personally, I actually like the fact that these buckle to the side rather than buckle together in like a horseshoe. I actually think that that's just better. And then you've also got these straps that kind of crisscross across the top. Crisscross and make you wanna. I was just in South America and I saw NatureHike all over. I was actually pretty surprised to see how frequently people were legitimately hiking and backpacking with this brand, which we mostly in the US, I think of it as a very low-end budget brand, but I guess internationally it has a little bit more respect, I think. And in looking at this backpack and in having used this backpack, I think it's actually a really solid option. But here we're going to start jumping into a little bit higher price points. This is the Outdoor Vitals Shadowlight 60 liter backpack. And this is honestly one of my favorite packs of the year, and low-key, I think one of the best backpacking bags out there. This is a $210 backpack, and if you're familiar with Outdoor Vitals, I think they're a really interesting company because they make high quality ultralight gear at more affordable prices. You won't find these guys in REI or in any of the major retailers, and that's intentional. That means that they can pass on a lot of savings to you because they're essentially cutting out those retailers. And this is a $210 backpack that I think is just as good of a performing backpack as backpacks that are about twice as expensive as this backpack is. This is a true ultralight backpack. It weighs less than 2 pounds, at a fraction less than 2 pounds, 31.5 ounces, grams showing up over here. And it actually does some pretty cool things. So where you're gonna save some money on this pack versus more expensive options is on the fabric. It calls it Robic High Tenacity Nylon, which basically means durable nylon. And it is a durable backpack, but where it's going to not be as good is that it's not going to have the waterproof capabilities of packs that are like made of Dyneema or Ultra or some of these fancier fabrics that are out there that are in the really high-end backpacks. The other thing that I think maybe holds this pack a little bit back is this back panel and some of the ways that they built the structure. It's very simple, but I do still actually kind of like it. So what I think is kind of fun is that this is actually a removable foam pad if you want to like use it doubled up as a seating pad or something like that. And actually my favorite feature is on this side. You can simply open it right up, pretty much all the way top to bottom. What I find is curved zippers are the highest tendency to fail, whereas straight zippers have a very low likelihood of failing. The downside of this access point is that you're gonna split this stretch mesh in half. So you still have the stretch mesh pockets, but they're a left and a right pocket, which can be fine, but if you've got a bunch of jackets or things that you wanna put in here, it can get a little bit awkward at times. You also have a bunch of different pockets on the outside. You actually have these double stack while still being able to attach things that are longer like tripods or fly rods on the side by just putting it in and using these straps on the side. I've used this heavily. It's very comfortable. I've carried very heavy loads in it and it holds up really, really well. The Outdoor Vitals Shadowlight 60 is actually kind of one of my favorite backpacks out on the market. Whew. La 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 la. I gotta take a second to thank today's sponsor of this video, and that is Element. Element makes some of the best electrolyte replacements on the market. I've been using Element for a long time. They've been a sponsor on this channel for quite some time now, and they are hands down my favorite. So if I'm ever outside, working hard, losing electrolytes, losing my salts, this is the best way to replace them that I've ever experienced. They taste delicious and they work. What I experience is that when I'm out there backpacking or out there hiking or just doing anything really, I'm feeling a little bit of a headache, fatigue, muscle cramps. I definitely take some Element to help me recover and to just feel better. And if you've never tried them, I highly recommend that you do. Simply go to the link below at drinkelement.com/erichanson and Element will throw in a free sample pack. That's 8 of Element's most popular flavors thrown in for free with any purchase. Check them out. I think you'll really enjoy them. And by clicking these links and making purchases through our sponsors, you definitely help these channels out, such as mine. So that's it. Thanks to Element for sponsoring this video. Let's keep going. Another backpack that I've really enjoyed using a lot is the Durston Kakwa 55-liter pack. And if you've been around or poke around on a lot of gear videos on the internet, you'll find that Durston has a pretty enthusiastic following out there. And I actually really like this backpack. This is a $260 backpack that comes in at 30 ounces. Some things that I really like about this backpack, it's super lightweight. It's a 30-ounce backpack. And it also has my favorite material out there. This is Ultra 2000 fabric, and this is a premium fabric. It is highly durable and waterproof. Now, is this backpack fully waterproof? No, it's not. And the reason why is because you have seams that don't have seam seal tape or waterproofing tape, and water can find its way in. However, the fabric itself is waterproof, and that means if you're in a light to moderate rain, you don't really need to worry about what's inside your backpack. I use this backpack on one of the most heinous, rugged trips I did all year, where I was fighting through all of this like Russian olive, crazy trees, practically canyoneering and scraping along rock walls. and nary a scratch. This thing held up great. Now, this is an example of where an ultralighter's pack really has very little going on for either support or padding here. It's basically a glorified tube, and it's a really nice tube, but it's still kind of a tube. So I do really like this backpack, but what I did find is that on some of my trips, I got little hot spots on my hips, right where these points touch the lower back / my hips, and I thought that that was kind of unique. I didn't experience that in most backpacks, but I did experience it in this backpack. That being said, I still really enjoy this backpack. I like these little extra pockets that are on the straps here. I like that you've got a deep pocket on this side, as well as a pocket where you can access it by yourself on this side. I love the fabric. I love that you've got hip belt pockets. And this is the $260 version, which I think is actually by itself a decent price point for this level of quality. However, you can actually still save some money because there is an option to get this identical backpack, but with a different fabric, and you'll save $60. So it becomes a $200 backpack if you want to go for a little bit cheaper route, where you're not going to have quite the durability, quite the waterproofing abilities, and it's just a little bit heavier. Now, this is a 55-liter backpack, and to me, that's going to make some limitations. At 55 liters, perfectly good for a lot of actual ultralighters out there. But if you're not really an ultralight backpacker and you get this backpack, you might not fit your gear inside this backpack. This is one of the more limited space backpacks that I used all year. This is a great backpack out there for people who are more committed to backpacking and really want to lighten their load, but go a long ways, do a lot of miles, do rugged backpacking. One of my favorite backpacks out there. If you're wondering if I only used either ultralight backpacks or budget cheap backpacks, the answer is no. I definitely used some regular kind of like more traditional backpacks, which we're gonna get into here. So this is the Mystery Ranch Radix, which is actually kind of a crossover between a ultralight backpack and a more traditional backpack. So if you're familiar with Mystery Ranch, they make a lot of gear and backpacks for the heavy duty users, whether they're in military, maybe firefighters or trail crews or hunters. And I've actually been a big fan of them for a long time, despite the fact that I am none of those things. Now, where it is not an ultralight backpack is over here. This is the yoke system, and they have a full frame with an adjustable yoke or an adjustable torso length. Right here, there's a lot put into this backpack to make it rugged, to make it beefy, to carry heavy loads well. And that's why I think that this is actually a really good backpack out there. If you are going to be a user who's going to backpack carrying 40 pounds, 45 pound loads, which is also what I carry because I carry camera equipment. A couple of things that I do like is they've got kind of this fancy, more ultralight material fabric over here, really durable, but still being lightweight. A lot of their other material is super durable, but not even close to lightweight. They've got all these like bungees and things like that for cinching things down, multiple different generously sized pockets. And then one of the other things that I think makes this pack kind of curious and unique is this very long side zip to get in and out of the backpack through this one generous opening here. Some people who aren't used to that are never going to use that. For me, with the style of backpacking that I do, I genuinely like using this type of feature. I like being able to get to camp, throw my pack down, and then just being able to get at anything and everything at any point in time. I'm a fan of that. The Mystery Ranch Radix costs $299 and weighs 3.8 pounds. So that's a pretty big jump up in weight over, say, the Durston Kakwa or the Outdoor Vitals packs that I've been showing off. This is truly double the weight of those backpacks. Now, what you're going to get for that added weight is the ability to really dial this into your exact body type, to your exact torso length. And if you're going to be a user who's going to carry 40 plus pounds, this will handle it no problem. That's where it really excels. That's why I think that this has a place in the market, although it does kind of fall in a little bit of no man's land, in my opinion, between trying to be an ultralight backpack and trying to be a traditional backpack. And I think it's just like pretty good at both of those. So it's not a perfect backpack. I'm curious to see if Mystery Ranch will iterate and make this different, but this was a surprising backpack, kind of an interesting backpack, and I think it has a place in my arsenal where I've got trips where I'm going to be carrying heavy stuff, but I want to be comfortable. This is the Outdoor Vitals CS40 backpack, and this is the second Outdoor Vitals pack that I have, and I truly do love this pack, but it's kind of an interesting spot for me. It's essentially a 40-liter backpack measuring the internal volume, and you do get some extra space here on the outside straps, the pockets over here, but this is one of the smallest backpacks that I've really backpacked with this year. And while I do love this backpack, I do find that the 40-liter volume is just kind of a little bit small for me. But here's where I really think that this is a great backpack. The CS40 from Outdoor Vitals is a $330 backpack and weighs 27 ounces. That's really, really light. This is one of, not the lightest pack that I have here today. This is the second lightest pack that I have here today. And this is a great backpack if you are truly an ultralight user. What makes this pack stand out to me is the fabric. They use Ultra Weave 1000, which is a very, very premium fabric. And if you're familiar with like Hyperlight and some of these other companies that use Dyneema, well, this is essentially a better version of Dyneema, or at least using their language, it's lighter and it's more durable, while still being waterproof. So that, in my mind, kind of makes it better. When I say waterproof, you could not throw this off a boat. Water would eventually get in. It doesn't have the sealed seams. It's not exactly like a dry bag enclosure here up at the top. But if you're in a rainstorm, it will just shed the water right off really beautifully. The other thing that I think really stands out about this backpack is this back panel. The way that they did this, I think, is exceptional. It's got carbon fiber stays for the CS part of the 40, which gives this structure. And then you've got these highly ventilated pads that go in this U shape to give your spine a place to sit, as well as air can move and escape out of your back. So if you're hiking and backpacking, backs get sweaty. You've got that contact with your t-shirt or whatever you're hiking in, and it just gets sweaty. This does a good job of moving that heat away from your body, getting that good airflow, while still being a very comfortable backpack. Now, my biggest gripe with this backpack is that it's kind of expensive and it's pretty small. I wish that it was a little bit bigger volume. I wish that Outdoor Vitals had a CS50. I wish that they had this exact same backpack with 10 more liters of interior capacity, and it would be my perfect backpack. Now, that being said, for most people who are taking ultralight backpacking very seriously, this is what they need. They don't need more than 40 liters of interior capacity, kind of an extra about 10 liters of external storage through this very stretchy mesh pocket. This backpack is among the most premium backpacks that I've really used this last year. I think it's a great backpack. Now, it's definitely not for everybody out there. It's kind of a niche segment, more of the ultralight users, the hardcore committed to going very light and not taking a lot of stuff. And if that's you, this is one of the best backpacks, I think, on the market for that style of backpacking. All right, okay. Ooh, the biggest, beefiest backpack of the year. The award goes to the Mystery Ranch Bridger 65-liter backpack. This is absolutely much more of a traditional backpack than anything else that is in this video. I like that there is some traditional backpacks. So if you are familiar with like the Gregory Baltoro, maybe some of the Ospreys, this is more like those backpacks. Often the backpacks that you'll find in the halls of REI are more like traditional backpacks. And you go to places like Garage Grown Gear or the internet for ultralight backpacks. They're more niche-y, there's a smaller market for them, they're more expensive. We're getting towards the top of our price point. This Mystery Ranch Bridger costs $375. It's a pretty penny, but it's also a really great pack. So I took this on the Icicle Divide with Miranda, hiking a big, gnarly, heavy-duty trail across Washington. Awesome trip. The Mystery Ranch Bridger has the most unique design of all of the packs going on. So first off, you have a running vest style backpack. That is very, very unique. When you're wearing this, it almost feels like a sports bra. Not that I have a lot of experience wearing sports bras, or any experience wearing sports bras. But what this does is it really distributes weight across your sternum, across your shoulders, and it really makes carrying heavy loads very surprisingly comfortable. Woo! That was on there. You can also adjust your torso length up and down and make sure that this pack fits for you. And then, when you've got the length right, let that Velcro reattach. This thing helps give the pack structure and form. Bob's your uncle, whatever the phrase is, and there you go. You also have a ton of organization stuff on the front. This panel where you can zip that open, you've got storage in here, you've got storage in here, you've got storage everywhere. As well as the other thing that makes this backpack very unique, the ability to open it all the way up and just flip out this opening and get at anything you need there. So what are you getting when you pay for a big expensive backpack like this? Well, you get a hauler. This thing can handle about 50-pound loads pretty comfortably. This thing handles heavy loads better than most every other backpack I've ever used in the history of backpacking. It really excels at carrying heavy loads. So if you are going to be carrying 50, 55 pounds on a big expedition, this is probably a great backpack. If you're carrying less than that, well, I just think that there's better suited backpacks that are out there. And the single most annoying thing that I found about this backpack is that it squeaks. It's a squeaker. I wasn't a big fan of that. If you are a traditional backpacker who wants a very comfortable backpack, you're probably going to be carrying 40, 45 pounds, and you want to be able to organize things really well, this is a great backpack. This bad boy is the Zpacks Arc Haul 70-liter backpack. This costs a whopping $400 and weighs a measly 21 ounces. This is the most expensive and the lightest weight backpack that I used in 2024. Now, Zpacks is a revered company within the ultralight community. You hit the trail, any long distance trail, you're gonna see a backpack like this come through. I have heard about this backpack and Zpacks for a long time. I've always wanted to know, like, is it worth it? Luckily for me, I was able to get my hands on one before my trip to Patagonia, and I backpacked with this for about 21 days in Patagonia. I use this backpack all the time. I had also some heavy loads as I was carrying tons of camera equipment, big bulky awkward tripods, and I was super impressed with how this handled. I was definitely suspicious that this, with this kind of like flippy floppy little sailor's sail over here, would actually do anything or be comfortable or be any good. But they've done, I think, actually a very good job of building a remarkably light backpack that can carry probably about the heaviest loads of any of these ultralight style backpacks that are out there. Now, it's a very expensive backpack, $400 for a glorified tube with straps. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of hooch. You can carry a lot in this comfortably. I think I had easily 40 pounds in this backpack on some of my backpacking trips, and I was comfortable with it. This is a very high-end fabric. It's Ultra 1000, which is, again, similar to that Dyneema composite fabric that is popular out there, but it's lighter weight, it's more durable, and it just has a better feel, honestly, than a lot of that Dyneema stuff does. These are basically just strings and little cinches, and this is what I'm talking about, where on that really cheap NatureHike pack, I really liked how that had a buckle. It added probably a 1/4 ounce, but it was a lot more functional, in my opinion, than Zpacks' version of it. You gotta kind of fix it and fiddle with it to get it right. That was, I think, one of the biggest downgrades for me. Things that I didn't like about the pack was this, but that's how you cut corners, or cut weight, I should say, to get the lightest pack on the market for a 70-liter backpack. Now, caveat, when I call this a 70-liter backpack, it's not a 70-liter backpack. The internal volume, meaning what you can fit inside the backpack, is 57 liters of capacity. Now, they say that you can add in 13 liters through the side pockets and this extra mesh pocket in the back. Now, personally, I would wish that anybody doing these sizings would call it what it is. If this is a 57-liter internal volume backpack, don't call it a 70-liter backpack. Call it a 57-liter backpack. CS40, it fits more than 40 liters, but they call it 40-liter backpack, which I appreciate. So thank you, Outdoor Vitals. At $400, you get what you pay for. You get a very premium backpack, super lightweight, durable, waterproof, probably gonna last a really, really long time. It's a great backpack. So what are my takeaways? Well, if you're on a tight budget and you need something that's serviceably good, I'm duly impressed with that Teton Sports Hiker 3700. I think it's a great backpack. If you're planning on backpacking for many years to come, I would try to save some extra money and move up in the ranks a little bit more. And honestly, that Outdoor Vitals Shadowlight 60-liter backpack is a killer backpack. Great backpack, great value. That hits the sweet spot for me for that middle point of being kind of budget conscious, lightweight, still comfortable, very functional. And if you can afford it, yeah, that Zpacks 70-liter Arc Haul, she's a beaut, and I'm duly impressed with it. I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite or your go-to backpack? And if you're in the market this year, hit me up with comments or questions. I'd love to hear what is factoring into your decisions. And if you have questions, well, I'll try my best to answer them here on the channel. I'm Eric Hansen. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later, everybody.